welcome to INNOVYNC Machine Solutions. I'm Pierre Sullivan, owner and managing director of INNOVYNC. For anyone that doesn't know, we specialize in CNC machines and solutions for the manufacture of stone, glass, and advanced materials. After speaking to some clients and colleagues, I've decided to put together a series of video discussions with industry experts. The aim is to give quality, concise information that can hopefully assist everyone get through the crisis, keep our businesses operating, and retain our staff. Please feel free to comment or share your thoughts. Thanks for listening. Next up, we have Stephen Thompson. Stephen specializes in risk management and business management as a whole. I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, Stephen, and how you got to this point in your career and what you specialize in.
I think I'm on either career 3 or 4, depending on how you look at it, Pierre. But I spent a little bit of time in the military as a younger bloke, and then as part of that, or also as part of a way of making some extra cash along the way, I started working in risk management specifically around safety and risk for large events, music festivals and things like that, and more broadly that's then flowed into understanding risk in the broader context of business, as opposed to those sort of safety specific risks that tend to get the bulk of that's what most businesses tend to look at when they think risk these days. It's sort of WHS risk, whereas those same principles can be applied to your entire business. And I've worked, along the way, I've worked in emergency planning, business contingencies. I've been involved in the safety for 3 different Olympics, the emergency plan for Sydney Airport, whole range of things. And broadly speaking, often get called by businesses when they need some help to try and wade through things that might be a bit sticky or dicey for them. Yeah,
and look, I guess that's why I had a quick chat with you a few days ago, and thank you for joining me in this discussion. What the aim of this discussion is trying to do is sort of give whatever information we can to relevant businesses out there to de-risk their business. It's unprecedented times with COVID-19, as we all know. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can only control what's controllable. So how would you sort of approach businesses, in the current climate, and what would you sort of do or say to them?
Well, I think there's 2 parts of risk. There's upside risk and downside risk, and one of the things I think is really important for people in these times is to not just focus on the downside risk, which in a lot of cases, I often use the analogy of a wave, and at a time like today, or times like today, you can often feel like the wave's already crashed over you and you're trying to sort of swim back to the surface in that broken water. The great thing about waves is there's another one on the way through next that can help you get to shore. And with that in mind, it's never too late to start to improve your risk management approach and the way you do things. And not only that, to look at the positive risks, the upside risks, the things that you can potentially do to increase the ongoing sustainability of business over the longer term.
And I guess a lot of businesses now, and myself included, we haven't been through the GFC, or haven't seen the downside of business, as Australia has been protected quite well even during the GFC, compared to some of the countries in Europe. So I guess for companies that haven't been through it, is there specific steps that you would say that you go through? I guess there's no need to go into detail, if people want to contact you directly to go through each individual company, because everybody is different, everyone is different. But is there, I guess, key steps that companies need to start looking at now, I guess as you say, to ride that wave and make sure that their head is above water for the next wave coming through?
Yeah, and even for today, I think, oftentimes risk management plans, and I'll use a safety example because I think it's one that most businesses these days are a little more familiar than others. You know, they can be convoluted, overworked documents that gather dust on shelves.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, risk is really simple. You need to identify what can go wrong.
Yeah.
You need to wait and score it so that you are focused on the things that are going to have the biggest impact to your business, as opposed to sort of a haphazard approach and just trying to fix everything, because organisations just have finite resources. Whether that's money or time or a combination of both, you can't fix everything. So you need to make sure you're fixing things in order. And then you need to develop strategies to treat those risks along the way. And the things that I typically see people fail in that process is they outsource the entire risk operation to somebody like me, and it wouldn't be me because I don't do it that way, but who they pay to produce a bunch of documents to tick boxes because they had to get a tender done or something like that. They don't necessarily understand it, and more to the point, those documents typically contain layers and layers of things they were supposed to have done that often don't get done because they don't even know that they're supposed to, what's in them. So, rather than having convoluted and complex plans, particularly now when you're trying to do them at a time where you're sort of doing it on the hop, take the 10 or the 20 or the 30, depending on the size of your organisation and your resources, biggest risks, whether that could be liquidity, whether that could be human resources, whether that could be a stop to production as a result of not enough staff, whatever the things are that you think might have the most significant impact on your business. And then, spitball with your team and work out, what can we do if that happens? What's plan A, B, and maybe plan C in terms of ways that we can try and work through it? How much will that cost? How practical are those things going to be to implement? How quickly can we turn them on? And then once you're sure that you've actually got something in place, then test it. Make sure that the things that you think might work, they actually do. And you've only got to look at the examples in some of our sporting codes and the like at the moment where I can guarantee you that the NRL has a nice big thick business continuity plan sitting on its bench because I know the bloke that wrote it, and the only thing they're going to be able to use it for at the moment is to keep the place warm when they've got no money to pay their bills.
Exactly. I guess that's the thing with risk management. You can look at it from every aspect of your business, and simplify it down to, as you say, what can go wrong and the priorities of how critical they are when they do go wrong.
And also what can go right. That's the other side of that equation that people often forget is you want to try and have some mechanism in your business to help you take risks in a constructive and measured way. So at the same time, when there is something that you're going to, you want to try something new or whatever it might be, what's the positive impact that's going to have to the business? What could possibly go wrong? And if it does, what impact is it going to have on what I had before I started this new endeavour? Is it going to make things better or worse? Will it kill me? Will it keep me afloat? Is it going to be catastrophic if it fails?
And I guess in times like this, it sort of does make you realise and look into your business, and it gives people a good opportunity to do it now,
In time.
Exactly. Exactly. So in regards to, I guess, an overview of business management, as I say, you've had a few different careers to get to where you are now. So you have a good overview of business management and, on staff and, I know there's a lot of government incentives out there, but what would you be saying to companies now and business organizations now about making sure, I guess, they don't panic now, they have their foundations right for when inevitably, and I said this before, that when the uptake does happen, because it's going to happen, it's not me saying that, it's not the business expert saying that, it's history that says that.
That's right.
It's common sense.
And I think the simplest answer to that is focus on talent.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, who are the people that you're going to need to have around you on the other side of this to help rebuild, or to help strengthen, or to help implement any great new ideas you might have, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And if you can't, if you fundamentally can't afford to maintain those people right now, at least maintain the relationships. Do whatever you can to keep them going. Be kind, be nice, do all the things that would make you, an employer of choice.
All the things you should be doing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But this sounds incredibly callous, but focus on the winners. The people that are going to help you get through it. And if you do lose people through this process, that you have a risk of not being able to retain once the skies are blue again, then start now to think about how you're going to go and find replacements, how you're going to go and solve that human resources hole. Because you can have all the best laid plans and whatever else, but if you don't have the super ninjas to actually make it happen, then you're in all sorts. And I think the cost, and that's going back to the risk thing, understanding what it costs to retrain somebody that's worked for you for 10 years, that knows where everything is. It's going to take a new person 3 months to be able to work out where everything is, of 3/4 productivity instead of full productivity. And just you haven't got to build crazy massive spreadsheets to work that out. You can use your and saying, okay, well, there's a fairly significant cost there. If I can find a way to not have to find or pay that once things start to come good, by just giving them a little bit now, or helping them, guiding them to a place where they're going to get the most government assistance they can receive, or whatever it might be, then do whatever you can to retain that talent.
And look, personally, I'm glad that the government is helping businesses, because for me, it looks like as if the priority is to keep businesses open, keep employees employed, and keep bread on the table for everybody. Because if you can't open your business in 3 months' time or in 6 months' time, it has a big effect on everybody. So everybody needs to do what they can now, of course, within their means, to keep their business open and keep their staff employed. And everybody's going to take a hit.
Even if, and I've been dealing with a lot of our businesses in retail, as you know, Pierre. They just don't have jobs for people. They've had to close stores. They can't. They don't know when this is going to end. They don't know when the sun's going to come up again, and they've had to let in some cases hundreds of people. 160 redundancies last week for a client. At the end of the day, we've gone through that process, and there's a gold star sitting against a number of those staff who have just had little things like a little package of goods that would have otherwise expired, that they put together in nice little boxes and sent out to them. And the individual phone call from the owner of the company, apologising, and those things go a long way for somebody when they can understand that there was no alternate, and they don't cost anything.
And it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. But it also goes out to the staff as well. Now is your time to shine. Now is your time to stand out, and make a difference. And if you're afraid that you won't have a job in 3 months' time, go that extra mile now. Make it harder and harder and harder for your employer to not employ you.
100%. And I mean, the other, I think one other thing that's good to mention is, when people do have these ideas for ways to enhance their business, or to maintain it, or to keep it up operating, or whatever it might be, just make sure you work through that new product, or whatever it might be, through its full completion. I'll give you an example of a client that worked through a click and collect piece. Was sure that everything worked. went live with a big sale day, and it's a franchised organisation, and all the customers paid for the click and collect to the franchisor, when all the franchisees were expecting to be paid by the customers when they came to click and collect. It's only a tiny thing somebody just missed off the process.
It makes a big difference.
It's going to take them 3 weeks of admin to work it all out in the mix, and it made them look a little bit silly with their clients. So what was a great initiative and is fantastic, just because of one tiny little oversight, tarnished that whole process in the eyes of the customer and in the franchisee's eyes. No one's going to lose any money over it or anything like that, but it's just take that extra 5 minutes, and if it means you've got to push it back a week to make sure that it's right, better to get it right than to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess
times, because as soon as you lose consumer confidence in your brand and product.
Yeah, I guess in the current climate, air industry, and I say air industry because I specialize in stone, glass, and advanced materials, and 99% of my clients are manufacturers, for the, let's say, I'll use this term loosely, for the construction industry, because it has some connection with the construction industry. And at this stage, most of my clients are still operating at the same capacity. Yes, let's say they've a little bit of work, but currently there's not a lot of doubt. There's quite a bit of confidence out there. It's not all pessimistic.
No, not at all.
So how you find that? Obviously, from the retail sector has been very hard hit, but I guess globally or throughout, how you find that?
I think we're in a fortunate place in that, as economic levers go back, in the 80s when we had the recession we had to have, the government had a whole heap of levers. They had interest rates, they had fiscal policy. There are a whole heap of things they could do to try and regenerate the economy. Pretty much the only lever the government has now is to spend money on infrastructure, or to hand it out through some form of social welfare. But there's you can't bring interest rates any lower than they are. We've got no direct control over the Australian dollar, so I think infrastructure based, and whether it be housing or other construction projects, those types of industries, I think are in good shape. The only thing I'd say there, and rolling back to that risk piece, is just because people have production and they have the capacity to continue going and the customer orders are there, be really careful about how you go about that production, because the last thing you want to have is a situation where one of your employees is the source of some form of spread into another, into a place, because recovering your reputation after that will be quite difficult. So just take heed, stay on top of the government advice in terms of what's appropriate in terms of PPE, health monitoring of staff, making sure that one person that's extremely pivotal to your production cycle, if they happen to be a bit crook, that rather than them coming to work, they stay the hell away and all that sort of stuff. But just put today aside for a moment to make sure that you don't end up in a situation where you are affected in an industry that's otherwise relatively, compared to the rest of the economy, unaffected.
At this stage, and look, let's hope it continues. And that's a very important point, that everybody needs to do their bit, everybody needs to do their part, everybody needs to listen to the advice, and especially, I guess, business leaders in a economy like this, you need to lead from the front. There's no point in you telling staff, wash your hands and wear PPE if the business leaders themselves are not doing it. It's really important, because example and showing your guys and showing your girls and your staff what they need to do and how they need to do it is critical.
Yep, and I think off the back of that too, in a sector that does have revenue and does have opportunity, wherever you can take advantage of some of the schemes that are going to be floating around once they're probably a little better defined than they are today, because I think there's still a bit of a moving feast. But once they are, I think if that means that you might have the capacity to increase production off the back of the government almost paying somebody's entire wage and build them some stock. All of those types of things. Look at those positive risks. Well, can I bring another 5 people on, pay 80? The government pays 80% of their wages, and build some production stockpile or whatever it might be. That's going to mean I've got a bit of a cushion moving into the next phase of the economy when the demand for labour increases, and consequently it becomes harder to find good people.
It's hard enough to find good people, but when the demand is really there and the uptake happens, it'll be even harder to find good people. So, all right. Well, thanks very much for your chat. As always, Stephen, enjoy. Sorry, I just lost you there again.
You got me?
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah. Thanks very much for your chat. As I always enjoy having a chat with you. You've got a very wide range of expertise, and I have no doubt in the coming weeks we'll chat again. I'll put your details, so if people want to contact you directly, they can.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. Thanks again.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
Cheers.
See you. Bye.